Right. I suppose you both remember Lesbian Nana. I know Stelios definitely does because he covered it originally. Do you remember Lesbian Nana, Callum?
Is this the police officer that looks like a lesbian? And if you say that, she'll come round and arrest you.
Yeah, especially if you're a teenager. She likes picking on kids, apparently, because she's seemingly done it again. But of course, what I'm referring to is this story. Anger as 7 police officers, it was 7, was it? I thought it was 6, arrest crying autistic teenage girl for saying one looks like her lesbian nana, which isn't an insult because normally people are fond of their grandparents.
What's wrong with lesbian
I know
nana,
was.
so?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It was interpreted as being homophobic.
Was mind reading.
Yeah, well, the police love doing that now. They know what's going on in your head because, of course, the state has got too powerful.
It's pre-bunking. Weren't you talking about pre-bunking the other week?
Yeah, it is indeed pre-bunking.
Yeah.
But yes, this was supposedly a homophobic hate crime, even though saying that you look like a family member isn't an insult in my books. Normally it's a compliment. But yes, if we go on to the next one. Okay. Oh, sorry, John, you did it. They did get a complaint and eventually nothing came of it. So here's the independent reporting from a little while ago. Autistic girl arrested over homophobic remark will face no further action after outcry, which isn't really a surprise because, how do you prove that she's homophobic for one comment that is perfectly innocuous as far as I'm concerned? But the story somewhat thickens here in that if we have a look, I'll skip over that just to mention Stelios did do a segment if you want more details on it. But there was this police statement as pepper spraying officer clashes with Leeds mob in ugly Rothwell Street row. And if you can tell from that blurry face,
don't worry, like a lesbian nana.
It may well be. In fact, John, can we play the video of her going a bit crazy? And I'll give the context afterwards. So here is Nana herself. See, she's the only one really kicking off here.
What the fuck is she doing?
Just randomly pepper spraying people. And notice all of the other police officers are kind of just yeah,
collected.
This is why I always thought, ending bullying in schools was a bad thing, because when you give the people who are picked on, probably like her, power, they will do it far worse.
I'm against bullying.
Not like just for the sake of it.
Well, if she is a bully.
Teasing people for having flaws is fine.
But you're right, she is the bully.
Yeah, she is, yeah.
For people who...
That's what I'm arguing is that, these kinds of people, you might not be traditionally regarded as high status, might be more prone to using the state to be violent.
Exactly.
So, for people who can't see the clip because they're listening, I just want to describe what happened, which is that you've got this event going on, some scene in which the police are intervening, and then they're shouting at people to get back. And all the men are just standing around, telling people to get back, and then they are. And she just goes mental, runs into the crowd, and then pulls out pepper spray some random guy.
It's like there's a bucket list, and it's like, I want to pepper spray people. Check.
Yeah.
So I'll give you some details of what actually happened. Thanks for explaining it. I always forget that people listen. I've been doing this for long enough. I should know by now. But supposedly, West Yorkshire Police, which is the police force which Lesbian Nana works for. I'm going to continue calling her that, by the way.
Yeah.
I know it's a hate crime. I don't care anymore. I've got nothing to lose. Come and arrest me. But anyway, they were called to somewhere in Rothwell in Leeds about 5 o'clock on Sunday. Apparently there was a large disturbance. They got there and there's a mob of residents who were basically hurling abuse at the police. It's pretty standard for sort of working class estates when the police turn up anyway. Apparently 3 officers received minor injuries and 2 men were arrested, believe it or not, for assaulting police, which makes sense. Apparently they also recovered some Class A drugs, but they said, this is a police statement. We are aware of footage circulating on social media around some disorder on 3rd Avenue, Rothwell on Sunday. The matter is being investigated and body-worn footage is currently being reviewed. A referral has been made to the Professional Standards Directorate. So it seems like she is probably going to be investigated now, because that is pretty explicit mention of that video, right? Saying that they're looking at the conduct and they're looking at professional
Who
standards.
the hell else could be in the wrong?
Well, yes.
Basically, nothing happened, and she went there and tried.
Well, she
Pepper
assaulted
spray.
someone.
Well,
with pepper spray.
something did happen.
What
But-
was it?
Well, the police were heckled and some were assaulted. But then
Yeah.
The-
So I have
you're
some,
making it sound like I'm defending them. I don't.
no.
I couldn't
It's
care
just,
less about these people.
It's just one of the issues in this case is the idea of a hate crime,
Mm-hmm.
and that in the first case she was repeatedly saying that she was a victim of a hate crime. So right now when we hear about police being assaulted, we don't know whether that involves hate crime. So
Oh yeah,
there's a very significant chance that nothing actually happened.
Well, I mean, normally the go-to thing that police get you on for trumped-up charges is public disorder or something like that, like the Public Order Act of, is it 84? You'll know this, Callum, won't you?
Off the top of my head, no.
But I think it's that one, and they normally just use that if they find someone annoying and want to make their life difficult. That would be the go-to, from what I've heard
Causing
from
alarm
police
or
officers.
distress.
Well, yeah, it's so
You know.
vague and subjective that you can basically charge anyone, and then in a court of law, it's your word against theirs. You're a police officer, and the court will favour you. So it always comes out on top, really, for them. So that's what they normally.
And even if it
use.
doesn't, they just have to pay you a few £100 for false imprisonment.
Yep.
It's
So it's very
Means
little
nothing.
cost for wrongful imprisonment, and I think that the amount of power the state has over people's lives is appalling. Like, you should be able to say anything you want, other than libel, shouting fire in a crowded theatre, that sort of thing, right? We know the exceptions, and I don't think anyone really disagrees with them. But everything else should be fine, and it's not. And all it does is enable people like this to use their power, which is very frustrating. But it is worth mentioning as well. Mainstream media is reporting that police officer, the Lesbian Nana one, is under investigation. So I suppose it's somewhat of a happy ending. We'll probably find out that they found that she either did something and gets disciplined, or it's not going to result in her losing her job. I'd be very surprised unless the public scrutiny gets too high, because as we know, when lots of people in the public scrutinize a police officer for doing their job, the police service will just throw them under the bus. I wonder what I'm on about there. But it's worth mentioning as well, I've interviewed a bunch of police officers on the website. Here's one where I interviewed a former undercover police officer. He had lots of stories to tell, very interesting stuff. And I also interviewed another guy, Stephen Bentley, who has written a bunch of books about real police operations and things like that. So I feel like I've got a reasonable understanding of how these sorts of things work. But this sort of older generation of police officer simply wouldn't have done this sort of thing, because they would have been friendly in their community. They recognized that talking to people and getting rapport with the locals is how you do good policing, because then you get tip-offs from people who feel like, they owe you one. And also people welcome you. They feel like they can trust you. That's how policing should work. They should feel like a member of the community, not just an agent of the state come to drag you away, which is almost certainly what they are now. But I wanted to harken back to one of my favourite moments in American history. This one. Now, I think, although this man probably didn't have any justification for pepper spraying those people, I like the way he did it. If you're going to be a tyrant, at least be nonchalant about it. His sort of indifference, like he was watering some flowers. That's how
Spraying
you
the
do it.
hippies.
But I think he eventually lost his job, but kept his pension. And all of the people who were pepper sprayed got $30,000. So I think that's a pretty good deal for everyone involved, really, because it could have been worse for everyone. I would be pepper sprayed for 30 grand. I know that much. What about
Yeah.
you?
Doesn't seem that bad.
Stelios?
Who paid for those 30 grand?
I think it might.
Taxpayers.
I think it was actually the university. I'm not entirely sure whether they were under university instruction. But either way,
It is-
both have the money.
Is that what a
afford it.
university cop looks like in America?
I don't know. to be
Hard
honest.
hats?
I think he might actually be proper police, but it's not the point I'm trying to make here. My point is, if you want to put pressure on the police, meme them into submission. Because if we know anything, the police hate memes. and having a sense of humour, because, of course, even their own ranks have been thinned of the police officers with a sense of humour. So there are some edits of this that I want you to emulate with the Lesbian Nana. So things like this, pepper spraying the signing of the Declaration of Independence. I think that's what that picture is. I could be wrong. Then we got Mount Rushmore here. And my personal favourite is this one. There's 2 memes in one. George Bush holding the crying baby, and a very terrible edit of it being pepper sprayed. But this is what we should be doing if we want to bully the police into being good, which I support. Please don't cite that in court. That was definitely ironic, and I definitely didn't mean it. But I've seen sort of shapings of it, but not much. I saw this on Twitter. I'm not sure whether this was the person who created it, but it's basically a mock-up of a potential Disney film, which is also rated 18, which I don't think they did. But Lesbian Nana 2, this time she loses it, and a screenshot from the video.
I love the description. Starring the BBC as the protagonist, Lesbian Nana as herself, and the Adidas male choir as the local youths. No chavs were permanently harmed in the making of this film.
Damn.
It's also rated for 18.
I know, yeah.
Yeah.
I think the one good thing she did do, and part of the reason I'm not as angry about this as I was with the autistic girl, is she was pepper spraying chavs. And I feel like even if they weren't doing anything wrong here,
that's your brand, isn't it?
They've probably done something wrong in the past.
Okay.
By putting on the tracksuit, they have admitted to the world that they have done something wrong.
I love your approach to statecraft is always like a bigoted 18th century aristocrat. It's just like, well, they may not have done anything wrong, but they're poor. They've done something wrong.
Yes. Yeah. But I would welcome more memes. If you would like to send them to me, I will share them on Twitter. I will enjoy it as well. And I think that this person should be singled out because they're using their position as a means of redressing personal grievance, which I don't think is what you should be doing in the police. You should know better than to take things personally. And she's clearly not having a good time of it. And I wouldn't normally single a person out because even if they've done something wrong, I normally feel a little bit bad for them. But in this instance, I do feel like some mockery is warranted. You know, not being horrible and calling for bad things. That's never helpful. But just poking fun at the police and this sort of thing because it is silly. Let's be honest.
It is silly, but there is also a frightening bit. It's not her specifically, but it is the other people on the previous video. For instance, in the other case, she was screaming and raving, and she was really upset. But there were some other officers who were her colleagues who were completely calm, and they were telling to the mother whose autistic child they dragged out of the house. Yeah, but she made a homophobic comment. Mm-hmm. She made a homophobic comment. And, they were completely unperturbed. So the issue is that there seems to be a kind of framework within the police that sort of
promotes this.
They're well aware.
There's the question: who's getting a promotion in the next year? Her or all those calm people who can actually do the job?
I think it will be her, because they'll say that we are giving you the promotion in order to mitigate the emotional cost that you had by seeing your face on social media.
Yeah. I don't think her personally, but the sort of archetype of police officer she represents.
Don't we need more women in the top of things?
Because she's had 2 national scandals. I get the impression that she's not going too far. It's going to get a cushy desk job away from...
The Metropolitan Police were defending jihad yesterday. Like,
I mean, the Met Police are a different standard entirely. You have the appalling standard set by Wayne Couzens. So if you're just not a murderer rapist, you're already a rung above that standard. So there is that. But I also thought it was funny that she got so sensitive about being called Lesbian Nana, and then the mainstream media, the national press started doing it as well. So the Telegraph here, local police officer called Lesbian Nana under investigation over pepper spray incident. So there we go. The Telegraph just calling her the name that is a hate crime, as well as the Daily Mail as well. Very wordy title. I'm not even going to read it because you need to do better, Daily Mail. I hate that phrase, but yes, do better. That is just too much. That's a paragraph. And my favourite thing of all was the trending tab on Twitter, which, if you read as a sequential sentence, is a little bit rude. So it's Lesbian Nana, which of course was the main trending thing in Britain. I think it was mostly yesterday. And then fingering, and then also Nadine Dorries for some reason. Whatever mental image you have in your head, I'm very sorry. But I just wanted to torture you all to end the segment. You're welcome, Callum.
If you appreciated that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content that's on the site, such as the Contemplation series, this episode on debating liberalism. If you'd like to find out what else is being put out, you can follow on Twitter at lotuseaters_com on Twitter. Thank you and goodbye.